the president announces a $20 billion fund to compensate victims of the Gulf spill, courtesy BP. How the methane gas might have seeped in. Crews find a crack in the floor of Massey's Upper Big Branch mine. And a year and a half later, TVA gets slapped with a multi-million-dollar fine for a coal ash spill.
From the Energy News Center in Washington, D.C., this is the Energy Report with Susan McGinnis.
Good afternoon. I'm Susan McGinnis. Thanks for joining us for the Energy Report. President Obama announced today BP will contribute $20 billion to compensate victims of the Gulf oil spill. The money will be set aside in an escrow account. The announcement came today in the East Room after the president and BP officials met inside the White House. The president says the fund will be administered by Ken Feingold. He's now in charge of setting executive salary caps for companies getting federal bailout money. Feingold also administered the 9/11 Victims Compensation Fund. The president says the fund will ensure people affected by the spill will get paid quickly.
It's also important to emphasize this is not a cap. The people of the Gulf have my commitment that BP will meet its obligations to them. BP has publicly pledged to make good on the claims that it owes to the people in the Gulf. And so the agreement we reached sets up a financial and legal framework to do it. Additionally, BP voluntarily agreed to establish a $100 million fund to compensate unemployed oil rig workers affected by the closure of the deep water rigs.
Well, the president also says those who take money from the fund still can sue BP. Well, BP's chairman made comments following the president's speech. Karl-Heinrich Svanberg apologized to Americans for the spill and said BP is committed to compensating victims.
The BP board has today decided that we will not pay any further dividends this year. We made it clear to the president that words are not enough. We understand that we will and we should be judged by our actions.
And in the Gulf, BP has started burning oil siphoned from the ruptured well. The oil and gas reached a drilling rig around 1 a.m. today. BP says the burner could incinerate anywhere from 210,000 to 420,000 gallons of oil a day once it operates. The system uses lines to suck oil from a stack of pipes near the seafloor to a drilling rig on the surface. Once the oil is aboard, it's shot down a specialized boom mixed with compressed air and ignited. MMS has a new leader. The White House chose Michael Bromwich to take over the Interior Department's Minerals Management Service. Among his first tasks, tightening regulation of offshore drilling and developing plans for a new oversight structure for the agency. MMS has been under heat for its cozy relationship with the oil industry. The White House has asked him to implement far-reaching change and says it'll give him the resources to do that. Bromwich is now a D.C. lawyer. Before that, he was Inspector General for the Justice Department. Exploratory teams at Massey Energy's Upper Big Branch mine have found a crack that could have allowed methane gas to pour through its floor. Massey says the size of the crack is unknown, and teams are unable to check whether it could have been the source of that April 5th blast that killed 29 men. But this is not the only time that cracks have been found in the floor of this mine. Massey released a report back in 2004 where it listed 2 instances of gas pouring through these cracks. Both occurred in different parts of the mine, but near where coal was being extracted with a longwall mining machine. According to the report, neither of the earlier episodes resulted in an explosion. Tennessee Valley authorities have been hit with an $11.5 million fine for that December 2008 coal ash spill at the Kingston plant. A penalty order from the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation said the company violated the Tennessee Water Quality Control Act and the Tennessee Solid Waste Disposal Act. The order says $9.5 million of that is to be made in cash, with the first payment due to the state by July 15th. The other $2 million goes towards supplemental environmental projects. And it's getting pricier to go nuclear. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission says it will cost nearly $5 million just to hold a reactor operating license this year. That's up more than $150,000 from last year. NRC says it has to raise about $912 million this year to cover its budget, up 5% from last year. The agency charges individual nuclear plant operators by the hour when it does special inspections or other activities, but that about 60% of its budget has to be covered by annual fees. There are 104 nuclear units in the country that will have to pay this fee. And nuclear power could be generating almost a quarter of global electricity by the year 2050. IEA, the International Energy Agency in Paris, says that goal would require building more than 800 new gigawatts of nuclear capacity, nearly 3 times what's running right now around the world. But IEA says the carbon-free electricity would be a major contributor to fighting global warming. It calls the target ambitious but feasible. Obstacles include financing and public acceptance of nuclear. Let's take a look now at some energy goings-on around the Beltway tomorrow. At 8:30 a.m., the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies holds a discussion at Union Station on the Gulf spill. And at 10 a.m., the House Energy and Commerce Committee has a hearing in Rayburn on BP and the oil spill. And Tony Hayward, CEO of BP, has been invited. He's not yet confirmed. That's the Energy Report. We'll see you again tomorrow with your latest energy news. For any suggestions or comments about our programming on Clean Skies News, you can email us at contact@cleanskies.com, and we're also on Twitter and Facebook. From all of us here in the Energy News Center, have a good night.